They smiled when I broke. That soft, satisfied kind of smile people wear when they think they've won. When they think they've buried you deep enough to forget you ever mattered. But what they didn't know was, I wasn't dying. I was gathering. Every fake laugh, every backhanded word, every time they watched me fall and whispered, "He's done." I stored it all, and I went silent. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew I'd say it without words. That's the part they never understood. My silence was never surrender. It was a slow rise, the kind that doesn't knock, doesn't scream, just shows up, stronger, colder, untouchable. They kept smiling, thinking the silence meant defeat. But the smile dies first when the tables turn. When the one you laughed at becomes the one they whisper about. Because I don't come back loud. I come back different. And that difference, it terrifies them. Let them laugh. Let them celebrate. Let them count you out. Because when you rise, their joy suffocates. There's something unsettling about someone who doesn't flinch anymore, who doesn't react, doesn't defend, doesn't warn. They thought they broke me, but what they really did was force me to wake up. I used to explain myself, used to try and keep the peace. I'd see their fake smiles and still try to believe the best, still show up, still give, still hope. But when you've been burned enough, you stop reaching for warmth. You build your own fire, and suddenly, their smiles start to fade. Not because you've changed, but because you've stopped playing the role they needed you to stay in. They don't know what to do with me now, because I don't engage. I don't perform. I don't shrink. And every time I rise, I strip power from their smile. Every move I make reminds them that I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. And once I got it, I moved in silence and came back as everything they said I'd never become. I'm not rising to prove them wrong. I'm rising because it's who I am now. And their smirk, it was never strong enough to stop me. There's a moment they all feel it. That shift in the air, that tension in the room when I walk in and say nothing. But everything inside me speaks louder than ever. They feel it in the way I look through them. Not with hate, but with detachment. The kind that says, you're not part of the story anymore. Their smile starts to crack. Not because I called them out, but because I didn't have to. Because the version of me they used to play with is gone. And what's left, it doesn't blink. It doesn't bend. It doesn't need them. They used to laugh when I lost. Now they choke on silence when I rise. Because nothing haunts someone more than watching the person they mocked become the one thing they can't reach. I don't want their apology. I don't need their respect. I want them to sit in the aftermath of what they created. Quiet, uncomfortable, and completely powerless. If you're still watching this, subscribe and turn on the bell. Because if you've ever seen fake smiles around your downfall, this message isn't a story. It's your reflection. They used to light up when I fell. That smug, quiet glow like they were witnessing the end of someone they secretly hated for standing too tall. But I learned something in that fall. Who's real and who celebrates behind a mask. And now that I'm back, I see everything. The forced compliments, the nervous glances, the fake small talk laced with fear, not friendship. Because I don't speak to expose them. I exist to remind them that I saw it all, that I remember, that I rose. And the higher I go, the more their smile fades. Because deep down they know, this wasn't luck. This was built in pain, in silence, in the kind of darkness that turns good men into ghosts, and ghosts into gods. I don't rise to intimidate, but if my presence shakes the room, so be it. They called me bitter when I walked away. Now they call me cold because I won't come back. But I didn't rise to return. I rose to become untouchable. And in that, their smile dies slowly. With every breath I take that doesn't include them. They didn't expect me to survive without them. They thought their absence would break me, that their silence would echo loud enough to collapse my confidence. But the truth is, I built this version of me in their absence, and now they're watching what that silence became. I don't smile back anymore, not because I'm angry, but because I don't waste expressions on people who celebrated my downfall. They're nervous now. They see me rising without needing to shout, without clapping back, without explaining the comeback. Because I didn't come back for them. I didn't rise to be seen. I rose because staying down meant they were right. And I refuse to let that lie stand. Their smile fades when they see I don't need their energy. When they realize I don't carry their names in my story anymore. And nothing hurts more than knowing the person they tried to bury now walks taller than ever, with no trace of them by his side. They'll tell people I switched up, that I changed. And they're right. Because the version of me they could hurt doesn't exist anymore. Now I rise without apology. And their grin dies in the shadow of who I've become. They used to laugh like they knew something I didn't. Like my silence meant I had nothing left. Like my downfall was permanent. But now, they avoid eye contact. They shift when I speak. Because rising doesn't require revenge. It only requires that you don't stay where they left you. Their smile dies not from guilt, but from powerlessness. Because nothing stings more than realizing the person you look down on now stands above you and doesn't even see you anymore. I don't need to throw it in their face. They feel it. In my confidence. In my presence. In my refusal to give them a second thought. You can always tell who expected you to stay broken. They're the ones who go quiet when you start glowing. Let them sit with the version of me they thought they buried. Let them try to smile through the regret. Let them live in the silence they once laughed at. Because when I rise, their comfort ends. And they know it. Now tell me, who was smiling when you fell? And how did your rise silence them? Drop it in the comments. Your comeback is your voice. And if this hit you deep, watch next. You mocked me. Now stay silent. Or, they forgot me.